I was born on July 15th, 1947. I'm the son of George Saybe and Angel Saybe, both of whom were wonderful parents. At 6 years of age, I was enrolled in St. Francis Cabrini School, which is still here. That was my elementary school. I had a great first grade teacher. I know most people, it would sound strange that I thought that was so important, but I had a little Irish nun. Her real name was Kathleen Daly. Her name at that time was Sister Philothea. She had a classroom of, I believe I counted 40-something students, which is, as you know, is not acceptable by today's standards, but she totally controlled the classroom just by her calm and gentle nature. I was enrolled at Menard Memorial High School when it was a school run by the Brothers of the Sacred Heart. And it was an all-male environment. Shortly before my enrollment, they were still in khaki uniforms in a quasi-military school. Being enrolled with the Brothers was probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life. They were very influential in the development of young men at that time. And because of the former military tradition, I think all of us had felt some duty or obligation that we in some form or fashion should serve our country. And that planted within me the seed or the thought that we all have a duty to this country. And eventually I ended up in the military, probably because of that and other things, my father's experience and all of my mentors and the older people in my family and extended family were World War II veterans. They all served proudly, and most of their children had the same desire to do that. I graduated from Menard Memorial High School in 1965. I enrolled in Louisiana State University in the fall of 1965. Had 4 great undergraduate years. Fell under the influence of some really influential people. And I've been fortunate all my life that way. And one of those people, when I was a freshman, I had the luck to be the younger, or the brother of Richard Harmon Drew, Judge Drew, who's on the Second Circuit Court of Appeal now. And he was my big brother in the fraternity, a great influence on my life. When my mother was in the 8th grade, her father died. And her mother, to survive, had to have a child work with her. They had a grocery store on Lee Street at that time. My grandmother took my mother out of school in the 8th grade, and she went to work. And her older brother, who was in high school at Menard at that time, my grandmother's idea was he needed to get out of school because he might provide support for the family. My mother's sister was too young to help at that time. She was probably 10. My mother was 13. If she had a regret in life, her regret was she didn't have an education. And she decided at that point her children were going to have an education. And that's exactly what she did. She got us all well educated. And so at some point, she looked at me, the oldest child, and said, "You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And how did I become a lawyer? Alfred Mansour, Judge Alfred Mansour, who is revered in Louisiana, I would say, in central Louisiana, is one of the more prominent justices we ever had, was a lawyer then. And so he became my mentor and the role model that my mother wanted me to follow, which is what I did. Actually, I was in law school, and she was a nurse at Southern Baptist Hospital in New Orleans. So I can't remember how we got introduced, but we had a few dates, and then we got married. It was a good match, and she's been like I said, she went with me to Fort Bliss, Texas, when I went on active duty, and she went to work at a hospital there called Hotel Dieu, and it's a Catholic hospital in Fort Bliss, Texas. She worked there the whole time we were on active duty. And then when we got back to Alexandria, she went to work at Rapides Regional Medical Center. It's been smooth sailing ever since. As a child, my first choice of profession was to be a soldier. And that probably had, what probably led to that was that it was shortly after World War II when I was an adolescent. And all of my family and extended family had been soldiers. And that's what I wanted to do. And so from the very beginning, I knew I would go into the military. And when I got to LSU, I took advantage of the ROTC program and received a commission when I graduated from school. The Army deferred my active duty because I was accepted into law school. And so for 3 years, although I was officially in the service, I was on inactive duty. Once I got my law degree, within a matter of weeks, well, actually, they allowed me to take the bar examination, and then within a matter of a few weeks, in August of that year, I think the bar, if I remember correctly, was given in July, and by August the 14th, I was on active duty in El Paso, Texas. I loved every day of my military career. I probably would still be in the service, except by then I had 2 little children and a wife that I needed to support. And I thought going back into civilian life would give me the opportunity to do that and raise my children the same way I was raised. When I came to Alexandria after my military service and the additional year at the University of Texas, I had interviewed for only 2 jobs. One was in El Paso, Texas. The second job offer was here in Alexandria, Louisiana with a plaintiff firm, and the salary was considerably less, but my parents were alive, my brother and sister lived here, all my extended family lived here, and I wanted my children to grow up in that environment. So rather than take the more lucrative job in El Paso, we settled in Alexandria, and I spent 1 year as a plaintiff's lawyer, just long enough to find out that's not what I wanted to do. So from that point, I left and went to work for Judge Alfred Mansour. That was 1976 by that time. And in his office, I pretty much did everything as most junior lawyers do. I did real estate, I did business, I did trial work. I found that that's really what I wanted to do, because for the most part, in that type practice, feel like you make lifelong clients. You have a lifelong relationship with those people, which is what I like about my profession. I have clients from the first or second year that I started practicing law, which is over 40 years ago now. They're still my clients, and I'm real happy about that. And I worked with Judge Mansour in his office with Michael Davis, another lawyer, until Judge Mansour took the bench in January of 1980, if I remember correctly. From that point on, Michael Davis and I were partners in the firm of Davis and Saybe. We probably were together for 25 years, and it was a great relationship, still a great relationship. After 25 years of a general law practice, I decided that I thought I would retire, really, at that point. I was about between 55 and 60. And so I came to the office where I am now as a sole practitioner, thinking that I would slow down a little bit. That didn't work out real well, but I'm still working at it. And I still have the same clients, like I said before, and I don't know if I'll ever totally retire because I enjoy seeing my clients on a regular basis and helping them when I can, and just enjoy the company. As I said before, I had one partner for a long time, a great partner, great lawyer. We brought in a paralegal. We never associated another lawyer maybe because we're both so, we like to control our environment, and we're both very much proud of our work, and I need to produce the product. I need to do the work I feel like I do, and one of my strengths, I think, as a lawyer is that I have a direct relationship with every client, and I control everything that goes out and comes in. And if that client receives something from me that's inaccurate, I'm accountable, and I want to be accountable, and I hope that never happens. So I have a very difficult time giving up that control. I've never really wanted to have an associate. I've always wanted to do it myself, from the smallest task to the largest problem. I want to address it myself. That's my personality. And as a matter of fact, when Mr. Davis and I separated, it was really because he did want to hire. He's got a paralegal, a secretary, and probably needs another lawyer. I wanted to slow down. I've been involved with the civil service systems for both the city of Alexandria and the parish during my legal career. I remember when I first had the civil service job with the city, after a term or two, I had decided that it was enough. You have to have patience, and you have to be willing to listen, and you have to make some important decisions for the city's civil service league. But after the first term, I had decided that I had done my duty, and I was not going to do a second term. And I received a call from Judge George Foote, who is now deceased, but I thought was a great man and another role model. And Judge Foote reminded me that I was an American citizen, and it was very important to be involved in civic activities, and that I needed to take on a second term, which I promptly did. Early on in my career, I handled a small case really involving a right of privacy, and it had to do with a 19-year-old who had been arrested and tried for theft of a coin box from a Coke machine, probably $15 or $30. He and a friend had pulled a coin box out of the Coke machine, and they were guilty, and they lived up to their responsibility, pled guilty. The owner of the Coke machine, who was a laundromat owner, posted pictures of the boy, the 19-year-old boy, with labels, you don't want to be a thief like this person, cameras are watching. It involved a right of privacy issue, so I had to file for an injunction to get the sign down with the pictures and the labels that the 19-year-old was a thief, which I did. And then, of course, we tried the case on the injunction and for damages, and we were successful, and the injunction was issued and the pictures came down, but the laundromat owner appealed the case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. I was fortunate enough in the year 2010, the local bar association awarded me what we call the Considicus Award, which is a Lifetime Achievement Award for service to the community and to the Bar Association, so I'm very proud of that. I think I've been a good father. That's the first thing I'm very proud of. I think I've been a good spouse, and I'm as far as professional things, I'm more proud of my military service than anything else I've done. And I wish more people could have that privilege, because to me, it's more of a privilege than an obligation.